He polished that bench plaque like it was solid gold, MJ mused, watching the homeless man work. Dedicated. Then he read the name. Jackson, the kid from the accident. His breath hitched. What didn't he know? The familiar, slightly melancholic beauty of Grant Park unfolded around Michael Jordan as he took a quiet, reflective walk on a crisp Chicago autumn afternoon. He was back in the city for a brief business trip and found himself drawn, as he often was when time allowed, to the park's familiar pathways, ghosts of his past echoing with every step. Near the Buckingham Fountain, slightly off the main path under the shade of a turning maple tree, he noticed him. A man who appeared to be homeless, kneeling on the grass beside an old, weathered park bench. He wasn't resting or sleeping. He was working. Meticulously, almost reverently, he was cleaning a small bronze plaque affixed to the bench's backrest, using a rag and a small bottle of what looked like brass polish he'd produced from a worn backpack beside him. The dedication was striking. Most people barely glanced at these memorial plaques, worn smooth by time and indifference. Yet this man, whose own clothes were frayed and stained, whose face was obscured by a tangled beard and the weariness of street life, was treating this small piece of metal with intense care and focus, rubbing away years of grime and neglect, bringing the faint lettering back into visibility. Jordan paused, intrigued by the incongruity. Why this bench? Why this plaque? What significance did it hold for this man who seemed to possess so little else? Curiosity overcoming his usual reserve, Jordan ambled closer, pretending to admire the changing leaves on the nearby tree. The man looked up as Jordan approached, his eyes surprisingly clear amidst the hardship etched on his face, holding a mixture of wariness and something else. Profound sadness. He didn't seem immediately hostile, just protective of his task. "Taking good care of that memory," Jordan commented softly, gesturing towards the plaque. The man nodded slowly, his hands pausing in their work. "Someone's gotta," he replied, his voice raspy but gentle. "Easy to forget, folks. Easy to let the shine wear off." He ran his rag over the plaque one last time, revealing the inscription. More clearly now. Jordan leaned closer, squinting slightly to read the small, weathered letters. "In loving memory of Daniel Jackson, 1980-1998. Gone too soon. Shine on. Daniel Jackson." The name hit Michael Jordan like a physical blow, sucking the air from his lungs. His heart clenched, cold and tight. 1998. He knew that name. He knew that year. It wasn't just a random memorial, it was tied directly, inextricably, to one of the deepest, most persistent regrets of his life. The car accident. Late one night after a celebratory dinner following a crucial playoff win. Jordan driving, maybe a little too fast, definitely distracted, caught up in the euphoria of the victory. A moment of inattention on a rain-slicked lake. Shore drive. The sickening screech of tires, the crunch of metal. The other car driven by 18-year-old Daniel Jackson, celebrating his high school graduation with friends. Daniel hadn't survived. Jordan had been cleared of legal fault. The investigation determined Jackson had run a red light. But the weight of the incident, the knowledge that his presence, his fame, had contributed to the chaotic aftermath, the media frenzy that descended on the grieving family, the what-ifs that haunted his quieter moments, it had never truly left him. He'd reached out privately afterwards, offering financial support to the Jackson family through his lawyers, but they had quietly, firmly refused it. He'd respected their wishes, retreating, burying the incident under the relentless demands of his career, but the scar remained, a hidden ache of responsibility and regret. And now, decades later, this homeless man was tending the memorial plaque of the young man whose life intersected so tragically with his own. The coincidence felt staggering, almost fated. "You knew him?" Jordan asked, his voice barely a whisper, thick with unexpected emotion. The homeless man looked up, his clear eyes studying Jordan's face intently. He saw the shock, the dawning recognition, the pain mirroring his own. "He was my son," the man said simply, the words landing with quiet devastation. This was the midpoint, the gut-wrenching revelation. The homeless man wasn't just a stranger tending a random plaque. He was Daniel Jackson's father, Mr. Henry Jackson, reduced by grief, loss, and likely a cascade of subsequent misfortunes to this state, yet still maintaining this quiet, heartbreaking vigil for his lost child. Jordan felt speechless, overwhelmed. He sank onto the other end of the bench, the carefully constructed walls around his own buried grief crumbling. Mr. Jackson didn't seem surprised by Jordan's identity, nor did he show any overt anger or resentment. Just a profound, bone-deep weariness. "Never figured I'd see you here," Mr. Jackson murmured, resuming his gentle polishing of the plaque, his focus returning to the name etched in bronze. "Come here most days. Keeps the memory close." "Mr. Jackson," Jordan began, struggling for words. About that night. I am so profoundly sorry. There isn't a day." Mr. Jackson held up a hand, cutting him off gently. "Wasn't your fault, son," he said, his voice heavy but devoid of accusation. "Accident was an accident. Saw the reports, heard the witnesses back then. Danny, he was young, excited, probably wasn't paying close enough attention himself." He sighed, a ragged sound. "But the aftermath, the cameras, the reporters camped on our lawn, turning our grief into a spectacle because you were involved. That nearly broke us." Jordan nodded silently, shame washing over him. He remembered the media circus, the way the Jacksons' private tragedy became public fodder simply because of his fame. His involvement hadn't caused the accident, but it had undeniably amplified the family's suffering in the aftermath. "We lost everything after that," Mr. Jackson continued, his voice flat, recounting the story without self-pity. "My wife, she couldn't handle it. The grief, the attention. Left town. I kind of fell apart. Lost the job, then the house. Been adrift a while. Now." He gestured vaguely at his worn backpack. "This bench, this little piece of metal. It's about all I got left connecting me to him." Jordan listened, his own regret mingling with a profound empathy for the devastating ripple effects of that night. He understood now the man's dedication to the plaque. It wasn't just remembrance. It was clinging to the last tangible piece of his lost son, his lost life. But then Mr. Jackson said something that shifted the narrative again, adding, a layer Jordan had never known. "There was something else, though," Mr. Jackson said, pausing in his polishing, looking directly at Jordan, his eyes holding a deep, unresolved question. "Something the police report never mentioned. Something Danny tried to tell me on the phone, just an hour before the accident." "Something he tried to tell you?" Jordan prompted, leaning forward. "Yeah," Mr. Jackson nodded slowly. "He'd been working part-time, valet job, at that fancy hotel downtown where your team sometimes stayed, the Ambassador East. Said he saw something that night, after the game, in the parking garage. Something he wasn't supposed to see." His brow furrowed. "Involved some shady characters your team's security sometimes chased off. Guys known for illegal betting. Maybe worse. He said he saw them talking to someone. Someone connected to the team staff, maybe? An equipment manager? Trainer? Handing over an envelope. Said it felt wrong, dangerous. He was spooked. Wanted to tell me in person. An illegal betting connection? Team staff involved? An hour before the fatal accident?" A chill snaked down Jordan's spine. This wasn't just about grief and regret anymore. This added a potential layer of conspiracy, a missing piece that might reframe the entire tragedy. "Did he say who?" Jordan's asked urgently. "Who on the staff?" Mr. Jackson shook his head sadly. "No, phone connection was bad. He just said he was scared, needed to talk. Then Then the accident happened. He looked at Jordan, his eyes pleading. Always wondered if, maybe it wasn't just an accident. If maybe those people he saw, if they somehow... He couldn't finish the sentence. The implication too horrific. The hidden truth, revealed by the grieving father on the park bench, was explosive. Daniel Jackson hadn't just been a tragic victim of a random accident. He might have been a potential witness to criminal activity, possibly involving point shaving or game fixing connected to the Bulls organization itself. His death, occurring just an hour after he planned to reveal what he saw, suddenly looked far more suspicious in this new light. Could the red light violation have been encouraged? Could the other driver have been influenced? Or was it simply a tragic coincidence that silenced a potential whistleblower? Jordan felt his blood run cold. This changed everything. His own long-held regret was now tangled with the possibility of a darker conspiracy he'd been completely oblivious to. Mr. Jackson's quiet vigil wasn't just about grief. It was perhaps also fueled by this gnawing, unanswered question about the true circumstances of his son's death. "Mr. Jackson," Jordan said, his voice low, intense. "This information, it's critical. It might change everything we thought we knew about that night." He knew he couldn't let this rest. The possibility that Daniel's death wasn't accidental, that it was linked to crime touching his own team, demanded investigation, however belatedly. He owed it to Daniel. He owed it to Mr. Jackson. He owed it to the integrity of the game itself. "I need to look into this," Jordan continued, meeting Mr. Jackson's hopeful, tear-filled gaze. "I have resources, contacts. Maybe we can finally find some real answers for Danny." He offered Mr. Jackson not just empathy, not just financial help, which he would also arrange discreetly, but the possibility of truth, of uncovering the missing pieces of a story that had haunted both their lives, unknowingly, for decades. The encounter in the park, sparked by the simple act of cleaning a memorial plaque, had unearthed a connection far deeper and more complex than Jordan could ever have imagined, linking his greatest regret to a potential conspiracy, and setting him on a new path to uncover a truth long buried by time and tragedy. What hidden connections lie dormant between public figures and private citizens, potentially linking their lives through unseen events and shared histories? How can seemingly random encounters or small acts of remembrance unexpectedly unlock long-buried truths and reshape our understanding of the past? Share your thoughts on regret, hidden histories, and the search for truth in the comments, and subscribe for more stories where chance meetings reveal profound secrets.